The hall of the alien palace was huge, bright, and silent. Tall walls of black stone rose up like mountains. Decorated with strange glowing symbols, hundreds of alien soldiers stood in lines, their armor shining, their sharp weapons ready. They were waiting for one person, their queen. The human delegation entered the hall slowly, trying to stay calm. They had come to talk about peace, but no one felt safe here. The aliens were powerful, stronger than humans, and their queen was feared across the stars. Stories said she had destroyed whole fleets with a single order. Her name was whispered like a shadow, and even her enemies called her ruthless. At the center of the hall stood a throne made of silver and black crystal. When the alien queen walked in, every alien soldier bowed. She was tall, her skin a shade of silver blue, and her eyes glowed like burning stars. Her long dark hair fell behind her shoulders, and her armor looked like it was carved from the night sky. She carried herself like someone who owned everything she saw. Every step echoed, and every human in the room felt small in her presence. The queen sat on her throne and looked down at the humans. Her voice was calm but dangerous, like the edge of a blade. "Humans," she said, "you stand in my court. Speak wisely. One wrong word, and it will be your last." The human delegation leader bowed and began to speak about peace, trade, and respect. But the queen's face showed no emotion. Her soldiers stared coldly, ready to kill with just a signal from her. The air was heavy, and every human felt sweat on their skin. And then it happened. One human soldier at the back, nervous and trying to break the tension, whispered a joke. It slipped out without thinking, he said, loud enough for the queen to hear. "You'd make a cute wife." The hall went dead silent. Every alien turned at once, their jaws open in shock. The human delegation froze, their faces pale. Some even closed their eyes, waiting for the soldier to be killed instantly. The queen's glowing eyes locked on him. For a moment, no one breathed. This was death. Everyone thought it was death. But then something strange happened. The queen did not get angry. She did not shout, and she did not order his head cut off. Instead, she froze, as if time itself had stopped. Her eyes narrowed, her lips parted, and for the first time in many years, she looked uncertain. Slowly, she stood from her throne, her long cloak falling behind her. She walked toward the human soldier, each step heavy, each step echoing in the hall. The soldiers whispered to one another, confused. The humans were too, terrified to move. The soldier who made the joke wanted to run. He wanted to take back his words, but his legs felt like stone, and his mouth was dry. He thought, "This is the end. I'm about to die because of one stupid joke." The queen stopped right in front of him. She looked into his eyes for a long moment, her glowing stare burning into him. Then, to everyone's shock, she spoke in a soft but clear voice. "I accept." The human soldier blinked, not understanding. The other humans gasped. The aliens in the hall muttered in disbelief. The queen turned slowly toward her throne and raised her hand. Her voice carried across the hall. "By the ancient law of my people, his words are a proposal, and I accept his bond." The hall erupted in noise. Alien soldiers shouted, arguing with each other. The humans stared in panic, trying to process what just happened. The soldier who made the joke nearly collapsed. He whispered to himself, "What did I just do?" The queen raised her hand again, and the hall fell silent. Her eyes glowed brighter as she looked back at the human soldier. "You are mine now," she said, with a small, unreadable smile. "From this moment, you belong to me." The soldiers' comrades tried to protest, but the queen's soldiers blocked them with sharp weapons. The humans had no choice but to step back and watch. The queen ordered her guards, "Bring him to my chambers, unharmed. Any hand raised against him will be cut down." The alien soldiers obeyed, but they whispered with anger. They could not believe their queen would accept a weak human, but no one dared question her directly. As the guards led the human soldier away, he looked back at his team. His friends' faces were pale, their eyes wide with fear. They could not help him now. He had made a joke, and that joke had just changed everything. The queen sat back on her throne, her face calm, but her mind storming. She had ruled for many years, but never before had anyone spoken to her like that. And never before had she felt something so strange in her chest. Was it anger, amusement, or something deeper? No one knew, but one thing was certain. From that single careless joke, the fate of humans and aliens had begun to twist together, and nothing in the galaxy would ever be the same again. The alien queen returned to her throne, her long cloak trailing like a shadow. Her glowing eyes never left the human soldier, who now stood surrounded by guards. The other humans whispered in panic, their hearts racing. They knew ancient alien customs were dangerous, and no human truly understood them. One of the alien generals stepped forward, his armor covered in gold and spikes. He bowed before the queen, but his voice carried anger. "My queen, this cannot stand," he said. "A human? A fragile creature? He insults you with a joke, and you honor it with acceptance? It is madness." The queen's gaze cut through him like a blade. "Silence," she ordered, her voice sharp as thunder. "The law of our ancestors is clear. A spoken bond is binding." He offered. I accepted. From this moment forward, he is mine. The hall erupted again, aliens shouting, some in anger, some in disbelief. The humans stood frozen, caught between fear and confusion. None of them dared to speak, afraid the queen might turn her wrath on them too. The human soldier, the one who made the joke, felt his knees tremble. He never wanted this, never planned this. He thought it was a stupid mistake, a way to release tension. But now, standing in the center of the most dangerous throne room in the galaxy, he realized the truth. This was no mistake anymore. This was destiny. The queen rose from her throne once more, her voice echoing across the chamber. "Let the court bear witness," she declared. "By law and by blood, he is chosen. He will not be touched, he will not be harmed, and he will walk beside me as mine." The alien generals hissed, their faces twisted in rage. Some struck the floor with their weapons in protest, but none dared to openly defy her. Not yet. Still, their eyes burned with hate. It was clear they would not forgive this decision. The human delegation leader finally stepped forward. His voice shook, but he forced himself to speak. "Great Queen," he said carefully, "perhaps there is a misunderstanding. Humans do not follow the same laws." His words were not serious. It was. The queen's glare silenced him. Her glowing eyes locked onto the trembling soldier. "You," she said, her voice low but heavy. "Did you speak those words?" The human swallowed hard, every eye in the hall burned into him. He knew he could deny it. He could claim it was a mistake. But something inside him stopped him. A strange feeling, like a fire in his chest. "Yes," he whispered. "I said it." The queen's lips curved into the smallest of smiles. "Then it is settled," she said. The alien generals roared in protest, but the queen slammed her staff against the floor, and the hall shook. "I am the queen. My word is final." The human soldier's comrades stared at him with wide eyes. One of them mouthed silently, "What have you done?" But he could not answer. His own mind was spinning, filled with fear and questions. As the court slowly calmed, the queen leaned back into her throne, her eyes still locked on him. "You humans do not understand our ways," she said, her voice calmer now, almost curious. "To us, a bond is sacred. To speak it lightly is dangerous. Yet you spoke with courage, without fear of death. No one has dared such words in 1,000 years." The soldier blinked, unsure whether she was praising him or condemning him. She continued, her voice echoing, Perhaps fate has brought you to me. Perhaps the stars chose you. Whatever the reason, your life belongs to me now. And by my side, you will remain." The alien lords whispered among themselves, their voices sharp with anger. One of them hissed loudly, "This human will ruin us. He is weak. He is prey, not partner." The queen turned her head, her eyes glowing brighter. Her voice dropped into a dangerous growl. "Would you question my choice?" The lord froze, lowering his head. "No, my queen," he muttered, his voice trembling. But the human soldier saw the truth in his eyes, hatred deep and burning. These aliens would not accept him easily. They would wait, they would plot, and one day they would try to kill him. The queen's guards moved closer around him. One pressed a weapon to his back, forcing him to walk toward the throne. The humans in the delegation tried to follow, but the guards blocked them. The queen raised her hand. "They may leave," she said coldly, "but he stays. From this day forward, he is bound to me." A human delegation leader tried to argue. "Wait, he cannot stay here. He belongs to our people." But the queen's voice cut through him like ice. "He belongs to me," she said, her eyes glowing brighter than ever. "If any human disputes this, let them challenge me in combat." Silence filled the hall. Not a single human dared to answer. The delegation leader's lips moved, but no words came. He knew that a challenge meant death. So, slowly, painfully, he bowed. "As you command," he whispered. The human soldier's heart pounded as the guards led him toward the queen's side. Every step felt heavier than the last. He wanted to scream, to fight, to escape. But part of him knew there was no escape anymore. The queen had chosen him, and no power in the galaxy could undo her decision. The queen leaned closer, her voice soft, only for him to hear. "You thought it was a joke," she whispered, "but jokes have power, human. And now, your words have bound you to me forever." The soldier's breath caught in his throat. Her eyes burned into his, and for the first time, he saw something strange in them. Not just power, not just control, but something deeper, hidden, dangerous. Was it curiosity, amusement, or desire? He didn't know. All he knew was this: his life would never be the same, and the galaxy itself had begun to shift, all because of one careless joke. The human soldier was led through long corridors of black stone. The palace was cold, yet alive, with strange glowing patterns on the walls. Every step echoed, every corner seemed to watch him. The alien guards marched silently beside him, their faces sharp, their eyes full of hate. He felt like prey surrounded by hunters. Finally, the guards pushed open a pair of tall silver doors. Inside was a chamber unlike anything he had ever seen. The walls shimmered with blue light. A soft hum filled the air. Strange crystals floated in the corners, glowing softly like living stars. At the center of the room stood a high seat covered in dark silk, and on that seat waited the queen. She sat gracefully, her silver-blue skin glowing under the light. Her eyes burned brighter than ever, but her face showed something strange calmness, almost curiosity. The guards bowed and left the room, leaving the human soldier alone with her. The door shut behind them with a heavy sound. For the first time since the joke, he and the queen were alone. He stood stiff, unsure whether to speak or stay silent. His heart raced, his hands shook. The queen tilted her head, studying him as if he were some rare animal. Then, at last, she spoke, her voice softer than before. "You are braver than you look," the soldier swallowed, trying to find words. "I didn't mean it," he said quietly. "It was just a joke." The queen's lips curved slightly, though it was not quite a smile. "Among my people, words are not just words," she said. "Words are binding. They carry the weight of stars. That is why your kind frightens us. You speak without fear. You laugh in the face of death." Her eyes locked on him, sharp and unreadable. "Tell me, human, did you truly think I was cute?" The soldier froze. His mouth opened and closed again. How could he answer that? If he said no, he might insult her. If he said yes, he might dig the hole even deeper. Finally, he muttered, "I didn't mean harm. I just wanted to ease the moment." Everyone was tense. "I thought if I joked, it would help." For a long moment, the queen was silent. Then she rose from her seat, her cloak falling behind her like a shadow. She walked slowly. Around him, circling, her eyes never leaving him. "You humans," she whispered, "always laughing, always mocking, even when death is near. Do you not fear me?" The soldier breathed shakily. "I do," he admitted. "But if I showed fear, you would see me as weak. And humans, we don't like to look weak." The queen stopped in front of him, her eyes glowing brighter, her voice lowered, almost a whisper. "Do you know why I accepted your bond?" He shook his head slowly. "No," he whispered. "I don't understand any of this." The queen stepped closer, so close he could feel the strange heat of her skin. "Because for centuries," she said, "no one has dared speak to me with honesty. No lord, no warrior, no general has spoken to me without fear. They bow, they flatter, they lie. But you spoke without calculation, without fear, without chains." Her eyes flickered, and for a second he thought he saw something loneliness. The queen turned away, walking back toward her seat. "I am a queen. Yes. I am feared, yes, but I am also a prisoner," she said softly, "bound by traditions older than your planet. I am worshipped, but never loved. I am obeyed, but never trusted. I rule, yet I am alone." The soldier stared at her, shocked. She spoke like a ruler, but also like a woman burdened by endless chains. He realized that behind her glowing eyes and sharp voice, there was pain she could never show to her people. "You humans laugh," she said, turning her gaze back to him. "Do you know what laughter is to us? It is strange. It is power. It is freedom. When you laughed, when you dared to joke, you broke through walls no one else has touched. That is why I accepted you." The soldier felt his chest tighten. For the first time, he saw the queen not as a monster, not as a tyrant, but as something else, something trapped, something lonely. "Still," he whispered, "but if this bond is real, what happens if I say no? If I refuse?" The queen's expression hardened. Her voice dropped like a blade. "Then your people die." His blood ran cold. "You can't mean—" "I mean it," she cut him off. "My generals hunger for war. They whisper for blood. Your refusal would give them reason. One word from me and your fleets burn. But your acceptance means peace." The soldier's mind raced. One stupid joke had now become the line between peace and war. If he rejected her, billions could die. If he accepted, he would lose his freedom forever. The queen stepped closer again, her voice softer now, almost gentle. "You do not have to love me," she whispered. "You only have to stay. Stand beside me, and your people will be safe. Stand beside me, and I will protect you, even against my own court." The soldier's breath shook. He stared at her glowing eyes, at the strange mix of power and sorrow inside them. She was dangerous. Yes, but she was also sincere. For a long moment, the room was silent. Then slowly, with a voice barely louder than a whisper, he said, "Then I'll play along." For now, the queen's lips curved, a sharp smile spreading across her face. "Wise choice," she said. "Perhaps you are not as fragile as they think." But deep inside, the soldier knew this was only the beginning. The queen had revealed her secret, and now, whether he liked it or not, he was tied to her by more than just a joke. He was tied by fate, by power, and by the dangerous secret she had just shared. and somewhere in the shadows of the palace, unseen, eyes watched. The alien lords were already plotting. The next morning, the human soldier was summoned to the grand council chamber. The alien palace was alive with whispers, servants hiding their faces, guards glaring as he passed. Every step he took echoed. With danger, he could feel the weight of eyes on him, eyes that wanted him gone. When the doors opened, he saw the council of alien lords seated in a wide circle. Tall, armored figures with cruel eyes, their faces carved with lines of age and power. Their armor gleamed, each one wearing symbols of blood and conquest. At the center sat the queen, tall and proud, her cloak spilling across the throne like flowing shadows. Her eyes glowed, calm but sharp, as the soldier entered. The alien lords did not hide their hatred. One hissed under his breath, another slammed a fist against the arm of his chair. To them, he was not a man, he was an insult. A fragile creature who dared to stand beside their queen. The soldier forced himself to walk forward. His heart raced, but he kept his chin up. He would not show fear. Not here, not before them. The queen raised her hand, and silence filled the chamber. "This human is mine," she declared, her voice strong. His words bound him, and I accepted. From this day, he stands by my side. None will question this again. But the silence did not last. One of the oldest lords rose, his armor painted with scars of 100 battles. His voice rumbled like thunder. "My queen, forgive me, but this is folly. A human cannot rule, cannot lead, cannot even fight as we do. He is weak." The queen's eyes narrowed. "Careful," she warned. "You forget yourself." But the lord pressed on, his voice rising. "If he is to be at your side, then let him prove himself. Let him face a challenge. Let him show the strength you claim to see in him. Otherwise, he is nothing but prey standing in a predator's den." The chamber erupted with agreement. The other lords slammed their weapons on the floor, chanting for a challenge. The human soldier's blood ran cold. He was no champion, no warrior who could fight alien giants, but he could see it in their faces. If he refused, he was already dead. The queen rose, her cloak snapping like a whip. "Enough," she commanded. But the lords only bowed slightly, their smiles sharp with cruelty. They wanted to see the human fail. They wanted to see him bleed. The soldier's heart pounded. He wanted to shout, to deny them. But something inside him whispered, "Don't run. Don't look weak." So he straightened, his voice firm, even though his chest shook. "I will face your challenge," he said. The chamber went still. The lords grinned with cruel delight. The queen's eyes widened, glowing brighter. She looked at him as if she saw something new, something she had not expected. The oldest lord sneered. "Then, tonight, human, you will face the trial of the circle." The queen's voice cut through like steel. "No," she snapped. "He is not ready." But the soldier stepped forward, his voice low. "If I back down now, they will never stop. They will keep trying to kill me. If I fight, at least I have a chance." The queen stared at him for a long moment, her glowing eyes unreadable. Then, slowly, she sat back down, her lips pressed into a thin line. "So be it," she whispered, though her voice carried a storm. That night, the palace gathered around the circle of stone, a wide arena lit by burning. Torches, shadows dancing across the walls. Aliens filled the seats, chanting, hungry for blood. The soldier stood in the center, his hands empty, his heart racing. Across from him stood his challenger, one of the queen's generals, a towering alien with 4 arms, each holding a curved blade that shimmered with deadly light. The crowd roared as the general stepped forward. "This is no place for prey," the alien growled. "Your queen's mistake ends tonight." The soldier swallowed hard. He had no weapon, no armor, no plan, but he had something else in his mind. He remembered the queen's words. Humans laugh in the face of death. The signal was given. The general lunged forward, blades flashing. The soldier rolled to the side. Barely escaping, the crowd laughed, mocking him. To them, he was a child running from a monster. But the soldier did not fight with strength. He fought with speed, with instinct. Every time the general struck, he dodged, rolled, or ducked. He used the alien's size against him, letting the general's weight throw him off balance. Step by step, moment by moment, he survived. The queen watched from her throne, her eyes sharp. She saw the fear in him. Yes, but she also saw something else, defiance. He would not surrender, not even when the crowd begged for his death. The fight dragged on, the general's anger growing. Finally, the soldier spotted his chance. As the general swung all 4 blades at once, the soldier ducked low and grabbed a fallen torch from the ground. With a desperate shout, he swung the fire into the alien's face. The general roared, blinded by the flames. The soldier used the moment to kick his knee, sending the massive alien crashing to the ground. The arena went silent. No one had expected the human to stand. No one had expected him to survive. The queen rose slowly, her cloak falling around her like wings. Her voice carried over the stunned silence. "You see," she declared, "he is not weak. He is not prey. He is mine." The crowd hesitated, then slowly began to bow. Not to the queen, they always bowed to her, but this time, to the human at her side. The lords' faces were dark with fury, but the people had seen it. The human had survived the circle, and nothing would ever erase that. The soldier dropped the torch, his chest heaving, sweat dripping from his skin. He had no strength left, but he had done it. He looked up at the queen, and for the first time, he saw pride in her glowing eyes. But in the shadows of the arena, unseen, the alien lords whispered together. If the human would not die in the circle, then they would find another way. The court had grown more dangerous, and the human soldier's survival was only the beginning. The alien queen was no longer the same cold figure the human had first seen on the throne. When they were alone, she looked different, softer, almost like she had taken off a mask. Her silver eyes did not burn with anger, but with something else, something he could not name. The human sat across from her, still cautious, still unsure of what game she was playing. "You risked your life," she said slowly, "when the council tried to trap me." Her voice was quiet, almost thoughtful. "Why would you do that? You could have let them kill me, and you would have been free." The human leaned back, forcing a small smile. "Free? I'd be dead too, remember? Your people would have torn me apart." The queen tilted her head, studying him like she was looking for a deeper answer. And maybe she found it, because she said nothing more. In the days that followed, the human began to notice changes. The queen invited him to her private chambers more often. She shared food with him, not as a ruler with a subject, but as if he were equal. Sometimes, late at night, she spoke about her past. She spoke of endless battles, of betrayal inside her own family, and of the crushing weight of leading a race that only understood war. The human listened, and for the first time, he saw not a queen, but a lonely woman. He realized that maybe no one in her empire had ever treated her like a person. To them, she was power, she was fear, she was law, but to him she was different. He found himself laughing with her sometimes, and he was shocked when she laughed too. It was strange. Her laugh was sharp, almost broken, like she had forgotten how to do it. But even as something fragile grew between them, danger also grew. The alien lords whispered in dark corners. They could not accept that their queen was becoming close to a human. To them, it was weakness, a shame, and a threat. So they planned, and their plan was simple. Remove the human, and their queen would return to her old self. One night, as the queen walked with him through the golden halls, the human felt it, the eyes on his back, the silence that was too heavy. Something was wrong. The queen sensed it too, her hand resting near the blade at her side. Then it happened. Shadows moved, fast, silent, deadly. A group of assassins leapt from the dark, their blades glowing faint blue. The human barely had time to react, but his instincts screamed at him to move. The first assassin swung for the queen, but the human shoved her aside and grabbed a fallen spear from the wall. He was only human, slower, weaker, but his mind was sharp. He used surprise, angles, and quick thinking to fight back. The queen cut down 2 attackers with her burning blade, but more came. The human blocked a strike with the spear, sparks flying, his arms shaking from the force. The queen turned to him, shocked by his courage. "You fool," she shouted, "stay behind me." But he ignored her, stepping forward to fight beside her. Together, they moved like 2 storms, crashing against the assassins. The queen's strength was fire and steel. The human strength was speed and clever timing, and together they survived. The last assassin fell, hissing curses about betrayal and weakness. Breathing hard, the human leaned on the broken spear. The queen stared at him, her silver eyes burning not with anger, but with something deeper. "You risked yourself again," she whispered, "not once, but twice." "For me," the human forced a grin. "What can I say? Guess I'm bad at running away." For the first time, the queen looked shaken, truly shaken. She touched his hand, just for a second, but it was enough to make the human's heart race. That night, as the guards cleared the bodies, rumors spread across the palace. The human was no longer just a pet or a joke. He was the man who fought side by side with their queen, the man who stood against death when others would run. Some called him brave, some called him dangerous, but all of them whispered his name in fear and wonder. The queen looked out at the stars from her balcony, the human at her side, and she said softly, almost like a secret, "I do not know if this is love, or if it is fate, or if I am only using you. But you are no longer just mine. You are part of me." The human felt his chest tighten, unsure if her words were a promise or a trap. And before he could answer, the sound of drums echoed through the city. The council had called for war. The assassins had failed, but the empire had decided. The human must die, and the queen must choose between him or her throne. The part ends with the queen's hand tightening around his. Her whisper was cold and sharp. "They are coming for you, and I do not know if I can save you." The city of the alien capital was not silent anymore. It was filled with the sound of drums, horns, and the heavy footsteps of soldiers. Everywhere, banners rose high with the mark of the empire. The people had heard the whispers. Their queen had chosen a human. Some shouted in anger, some in shock, and some in fear. But all of them gathered to see what would happen next. Inside the throne hall, the human stood beside the queen. The chamber was crowded with alien generals, priests and lords. Their eyes glowed with hatred, their claws tight on their weapons. They did not see a man. They saw an intruder, a mistake, a danger to their traditions. One general stepped forward, his armor black like stone. He pointed at the human and growled, "This creature mocks us, poisons our queen, and makes her weak. By our law, he must die." The hall roared in agreement, voices rising like thunder. The queen raised her hand, and silence fell. Her voice was calm, but her words cut sharp. "You speak of weakness, but you fear him." The lords hissed, offended, but the queen's eyes burned silver. She was not afraid, yet she knew the truth. Her power alone would not protect the human forever. The human stepped forward, shocking everyone. His voice was steady, though his heart raced. "I am not here to poison your queen," he said. "I did not ask to be her husband. I only made a joke." Some laughed bitterly, others growled, but he did not stop. "Still, when you sent assassins, I fought. When danger came, I stood beside her, and I will not run, not now, not ever. The words echoed through the chamber. The alien sneered. What could a weak human do? But his courage unsettled them. They were used to fear, to begging, to silence. Not to a man who stood tall with nothing but will. The council demanded a trial by combat. If the human survived, he could stay. If not, his death would end the shame. The queen protested, her voice like fire. But tradition was heavy, older than her. Even she could not break it without tearing the empire apart. That night, the human prepared alone. He had no armor, no alien strength, no sacred weapons. Only his training, his wits, and the memory of Earth. He thought of the queen. Was she truly with him, or using him? It did not matter, because tomorrow he would stand, and he would not kneel. The arena was vast, a circle of stone and fire. Tens of thousands filled the stands, chanting, waiting for blood. The queen sat above, her expression cold, hiding the storm inside. The human stepped into the sand. Facing him was a giant alien warrior, twice his size, armored in steel. The crowd roared as the warrior raised a blade taller than the human himself. The fight began. The alien swung with crushing force. The human rolled aside, the ground splitting where the blade hit. He had no chance if he fought strength with strength. He had to use speed, timing, and mind. Strike after strike came, each one powerful enough to cut him in half, but the human dodged, twisted, used the sand to blind his foe. He grabbed broken spears, broken stones, anything he could use. The alien laughed at first, but then the laughter stopped, because the human would not fall. Minutes turned into an eternity. The human's body bled. His arms shook, his breath grew short, but his eyes stayed sharp. With one final move, he let the alien's own strength betray him. The giant swung too hard, too fast. The human ducked, rolled, and the alien's blade struck the ground, stuck. Deep, in that moment, the human struck with all he had, driving a broken spear into the alien's weak spot. The warrior fell with a roar that shook the arena. The human stood over him, trembling but unbroken. The crowd was silent, shocked into disbelief. A fragile human had beaten one of their strongest. The queen rose to her feet, her voice cutting through the silence. You call him weak? You call him nothing? Then tell me, who among you stood against your champion and lived? No one answered, because the truth was before them, and it was undeniable. The people began to chant, not in anger, but in awe. The human's name echoed across the arena. The queen looked down at him, and for the first time, her cold mask broke. There was pride in her eyes, and something else, something closer to love. But even in victory, danger grew. The human could feel it. The generals would never accept him. The empire would not bend so easily. And somewhere in the shadows, new enemies prepared to strike. This was not the end. This was only the beginning. The part ends with the human standing in the blood-stained arena, his voice whispering to himself, "If this is what it takes to survive, then I'll fight the whole galaxy." The arena was still ringing with the echo of the crowd. The human stood, covered in blood and dust, his chest rising and falling like a storm. He had done the impossible, defeated a warrior no one thought he could even survive against. The queen's people stared at him with wide eyes, half in awe, half in terror. But victory in the arena was only the beginning. The real battle was waiting inside the council hall. That night, the queen summoned her generals and lords. The human stood beside her, still wounded but unbroken. The lords shouted, their voices heavy with rage. This cannot be. A human cannot stand at the queen's side. He is a curse on our traditions. He will destroy us all. The queen's gaze was sharp as a blade. And yet, she said calmly, he destroyed your champion, did he not? The council fell silent for a moment, but hate does not vanish so easily. One priest stepped forward, his voice low and cold. If you choose him, Queen, you will no longer be ours. You will no longer be ruler of this empire. You must choose your throne. Or the human. The hall turned silent, every eye fixed on the Queen, every breath waiting. Even the human felt his heart stop. He wanted to speak, to tell her not to throw away her empire for him. But his throat was dry, and his voice refused to rise. The Queen looked at him, her silver eyes unreadable. He saw something in them: fear, hope, fire, and maybe even love. Then she turned back to her people. Her voice thundered across the chamber. Listen well. This human is not my weakness. He is my strength. He risked his life for me when your blades turned against my back. He fought beside me when you plotted in shadows. He stood against your champion and survived. If that is weakness, then perhaps it is you who are weak. The words hit like fire. The crowd outside the chamber erupted into chaos. Some cheered, some roared in fury. The empire was splitting. One half ready to follow their queen and her strange human, the other half ready to tear them both apart. The human felt the weight of her choice. She had risked everything for him, her throne, her power, her people, and now war was no longer just a threat. It was coming fast, like a storm at the edge of the galaxy. Days later, fleets gathered in the skies. The Queen's loyalists stood ready, but the rebel lords raised their own armies. The empire was at the edge of civil war, and the human knew there was no escape. He was now a part of this fight, not by accident, but by destiny. On the eve of battle, the Queen and the human stood on a balcony overlooking the burning skies. The air smelled of smoke and fire. The Queen's armor gleamed under the stars. She looked at him, her voice quiet. When you first spoke to me, I thought it was a joke. But perhaps fate hid truth inside that foolish moment. Perhaps the galaxy wanted me to hear your words. The human smiled faintly, tired but defiant. Well, I did say you'd make a cute wife. For the first time, she smiled too, not cold, not sharp, but real. Then the drums of war began. The battle came like thunder. Alien ships filled the skies. Beams of fire tearing through the heavens. Armies clashed on the ground, the sound of steel and screams filling the air. The Queen fought like a storm, her blade cutting through enemies. The human fought at her side, not as strong, but fast, clever, unstoppable. Together, they became a symbol too. Different worlds standing as one. The rebels pressed hard, their numbers endless. But the Queen's people began to rally. They saw the human bleeding, fighting, refusing to fall. They saw their Queen protecting him with all her strength, and slowly their fear turned to belief. Not in tradition, not in old laws, but in the bond between their Queen and the human who refused to die. At the height of the battle, the rebel general struck, a giant armored figure, larger than all others. He raised his blade to cut the Queen down. The human leapt in front, blocking with nothing but a broken shield. The impact sent him crashing to the ground, pain tearing through him. The Queen screamed his name, fury exploding inside her. In a single strike, she cut down the general, but her hands trembled as she turned back to the human. He was bleeding, broken, but alive. He looked at her with a weak grin. Still think I'm weak? He whispered. The Queen knelt beside him, her silver eyes burning with fire and tears. No, she said, her voice shaking. You are the strongest I have ever known. The battle ended in victory. The rebels were crushed, their armies scattered. The people now knelt not only to their Queen, but to the human who had stood with her. The galaxy had witnessed something it would never forget. In the quiet after the war, the Queen stood before her people, the human at her side. Her voice was steady. This man is not my prisoner, not my weakness, not my shame. He is my partner. Together we will rule, not with fear alone, but with strength and courage. From this day, our empire will change. The crowd roared, not in anger, but in loyalty. And for the first time, The queen was not alone. She had a partner, a husband not by tradition, but by choice, and the human. He had turned a joke into destiny. As the stars burned above them, the queen whispered only to him, "You spoke one foolish sentence that day, and now the galaxy will never be the same." The human smiled, his voice soft but proud. "Guess I've got away with words." And so it ended, not with chains, not with death, but with a bond strong enough to shake empires. Yet beyond the stars, shadows still watched. Other races whispered of the human who had won the heart of an alien queen, and some feared him, while others prepared for the day they would test humanity for themselves. Because this was not the end of the story. This was only the beginning of a new legend.